Season 5 of Netflix's Cobra Kai and A24's Pearl premiere while a trailer for the next film from the director of Whiplash is released and a Blade Runner TV series is announced. I'm Joe Acierno.
And I'm Darius Delsoin. This is Cinema Unchained.
Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of the one and only Cinema Unchained podcast. Now before we talk about the trailer for the next film from the director of La La Land, if you want more honest and engaging talks about movies, TV, and everything in between, don't forget to smack that subscribe button and ring the bell to get all notifications, whether on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, before we review the new season of Cobra Kai, the trailer for Babylon, the next film from filmmaker Damien Chazelle, who's also given us Whiplash, La La Land, and First Man, was released this past week, and it follows the stars, or really multiple stars, as they rise and fade in the early days of Hollywood. Now, first, I have to say, the first thing I noticed, at least with this trailer, was it seemed to have, a similar energy to Whiplash and La La Land. Mm-hmm. But there's just something that just felt crazy about it, you know what I mean? There's just something that just felt just a bit, I don't know if kinetic, maybe kinetic is the right word, but I think just, crazy and kinetic and bonkers, even more so than Whiplash or La La Land. Because Whiplash and La La Land both had, energy, but it felt in a more rational fashion. You know what I mean? Not that, those movies were, unimaginative by any stretch of the imagination, but when I saw the trailer for Babylon, there's just something that felt very irrational about the feeling that I got while watching this trailer. And I'm not saying that as, a bad thing. There just seems to be something a bit more zany about this as opposed to Whiplash and La La Land, and definitely much more so than First Man.
Yeah, it definitely had a very, as you said, very kinetic, animated, energy to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, because I wasn't sure, because, when you told me about the trailer, I was like, okay, let me watch it. And I watched it, and I was like, this is completely unexpected of what I expected from, I didn't know what it was. I just saw the trailer and I was like, okay, this looks pretty fun. This looks pretty crazy. And then, as I was just looking at the synopsis and everything, I was like, this is actually a pretty interesting concept and idea, because, this is about Hollywood, people who want to rise up in fame in Hollywood. And I guess you get to see the side of them that is a bit lost, possibly a bit almost uncontrollable with some of the actors and characters that are some of the characters that these actors are portraying. Just this over the top, not over the top as in acting wise, but just bonkers, crazy, wild night of what could possibly be going down behind the scenes on Hollywood, getting on sets to parties, whatever it may be. And so that intrigued me very much so from the trailer. And I gotta say, I saw my boy Tobey Maguire, so I was like, all right,
yeah,
I gotta see this now.
That's a pairing, when you think about director-actor pairings, Damien Chazelle and Tobey Maguire is not something I expected to see, but I remember reading about it a while ago. I'm like, oh, that could be interesting. We didn't see too much of him in the trailer. We saw more of Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. But I'm interested to see how Tobey Maguire does. Because, again, that's, the person it's weird. You see Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie in a lot more films. Yeah. So, I guess I just don't wonder as much, how they're going to do, you know what I mean? Because I see them over and over and over again. And not that, they're not talented or they don't deserve the work that they get. Just I see Tobey Maguire in something. I'm like, oh, this... You don't see that as much, you know what I mean? So it stands out that much more.
Yeah, it's it's been a minute for him, so as us viewers, I guess. So it's gonna be interesting to see him in this role. I think Brad Pitt actually, I gotta give it to him. Lately, he's been he's been doing some more comedic roles, and he's been doing pretty well at them. So seeing him in this role too, and just the comedic nature of his character, some of the scenes honestly had me kind of laughing out loud at certain points. So and of course Margot Robbie, absolutely spectacular. It's Margot Robbie at this point. But overall, like I said, I'm intrigued with this. I actually want to see this in theaters.
This is not something you watch at home or on your phone or anything like that. Yeah. This definitely feels like something you have to watch in theaters. Just again, going back again from Damien Chazelle's other films, it's particularly La La Land, and I feel like this will be on a similar scale and scope as La La Land, but at the same time, there's a more unhinged... I feel like there's going to be a more unhinged factor with Babylon as opposed to La La Land. So again, you have that. You have really what appears to be like a really lavish artistic design. I feel like that's going to play into a sort of extravagance that feels like that'll be like one of the main themes in the story of Babylon. Like I feel like the artistic design, costumes, production design, and even again, just like the overall feeling, like that crazy over the top feeling, that's just like the vibe that I'm getting from this film so far.
Yeah, same here, absolutely. So I'm definitely actually pretty intrigued to see this and to see how well it does. Hopefully it does well, whatever it may be, but I'm interested in it, to say the least.
Yeah, Damien Chazelle has a pretty solid track record. Again, Whiplash, then La La Land, then First Man. So I'm very confident in him as a filmmaker. He's one of the filmmakers out there that, like, anytime he has something coming up, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm intrigued, I'm excited. This will more than likely be a great time. And this will more than likely be something very well done that I'll be thinking about for a while after I leave the theater. And speaking of theaters, this movie goes into select theaters on Christmas Day, and then it goes everywhere January 6th. So I'm hoping that it is playing somewhere at least a little bit closer by, like in terms of like the select theaters, because I would rather not wait until January 6th to watch this one. For all of you that are with us, what are your thoughts on the trailer for Babylon? Do you think this will live up to Damien Chazelle's other films? Do you think this will be somewhere in the line of Whiplash, First Man, or La La Land? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can, in whatever comment section that you can. And if you want more fun trailer discussions like this one, do us all a favor, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you are on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, before we talk about the upcoming Blade Runner series, I feel like it feels weird saying at long last season 5 of Cobra Kai debuted on Netflix. But when you think about the rate that these seasons have been getting pumped out, it really wasn't that long of a wait. But at the same time, when it's Cobra Kai, like anytime you have to wait for the next season is too long. So of course, season 5 debuted on Netflix last week, and it follows the main storyline, because there are always a bunch of different storylines, it feels, with Cobra Kai. But the main one is that Daniel LaRusso teams up with Chosen to strategically expose Terry Silver for the madman that he is after Cobra Kai wins the All Valley tournament under his co-leadership, and after he, spoiler, forces out John Kreese by framing him for a crime that he didn't commit. And again, as always with Cobra Kai, season after season, it manages to expand on what already makes the show great. Whereas the action sequences, the performance, and again, the characters in particular. I will say this 1,000 times until the show is done. This is a masterclass in character development more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. This show just keeps on getting better. I don't know, like, that's something I don't think you don't see all the time with certain television shows. But I feel that with Cobra Kai, and other shows have done this, but like after season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, every season just keeps getting better. And it amazes me at how like this writing team, and even the directors, and even the people shooting them, just keep it consistent along the way and not lose the DNA of what makes Cobra Kai, and even bringing in the old characters, characters that we knew from the Karate Kid films and etc., bringing them into the picture and expanding upon them as well, and even introducing new dynamics. It's so good. Like you said, this show is a masterclass in character development across the board with a lot of different characters, including even some of the side characters. I gotta give it to them as well. But overall, just because I just finished it essentially last night, and what a season! It was worth the wait. What a season!
And I love how, like, there's so many characters in the show. None of them feel like throwaways. I mean, they all feel important. They all feel memorable. They all feel essential somehow. Like, of course, you have, like, your leading characters, and you have, like, I feel like a lot of shows, like, have, like, your leads, your supportings, and then, like, your minor or, like, really background characters. Like, I feel like this show really only has leading and supporting, because even all, like, the supporting characters that are in there, like, they feel important somehow. They all serve a purpose somehow. And I love how, again, they just manage to keep finding ways to expand and dig deeper with these characters without it feeling like fluff, without it feeling like something that doesn't need to be there. I think that's truly the most spectacular thing about this show. whether it's a character, just like whether it's an old character, like getting an upgrade or a redemption, or, even just like a newer character that you just keep increasing in the depth and you keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah. And to be honest, even the show, especially towards the end, subverted some of my expectations. Mainly because there were certain things happening a bit in the middle that I was like, oh, they're planning on possibly doing this. But they ended up not doing it, so I was kind of shocked at them not doing it. Because I was like, oh, I expected this to happen, but I guess not. And one of the characters I really liked seeing grow was, especially from last season, was the little... Man, I can't remember the guy's name. The little black kid, Kenny. His development from last season to this season, and I got to give it to the actor too. Holy cow, he's put on some great performances this season that made me feel like, oh man, like it was essentially I was feeling bad for certain things around some of the certain events around some of the characters, and just how the tables have turned with certain dynamics too. And I was just like, I can't back this person or whatever because you're doing this. And it made me just think of just all the, even some of the lessons growing up of just like, you can feel a certain way, especially being bullied or whatever, but how you use what you've been taught that kind of defines a bit of your character too. And obviously there's also redemption. You see it with Robbie. I think he's easily one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yes.
And this, I'm not talking about this season, I'm talking about just throughout of Cobra Kai in general, from season 1 to season 5. You just see how all of these characters have grown, matured, absolutely, to the point where it kind of just feels, to a certain extent, like almost they're adults at certain points. And I'm just like, this is just really well done. But overall, this Cobra Kai Season 5, highly recommend it if anyone hasn't seen it. Obviously, I think a lot of people have already. But it was an emotional roller coaster, even for me, especially towards the end. And I was just like, this is great. This is just spectacular.
It's again, like, just when you think they can't possibly outdo themselves, they always do. And I just can't help but wonder exactly, like, what'll happen in season 6 based on I don't want to give like a spoiler as far as like how season 5 ends, but just when you think everything has been wrapped up, right, that like everything's been going on, like, to the very last episode, you're like, oh, is this the end of the show? Then something else happens, you're like, oh, this still isn't over yet, and I still want to know what happens. But at the same time, maybe this prediction won't age so well. I have an odd feeling that season 6 will be the last season.
I was just about to say that.
I think season 6, they haven't announced it, to my knowledge, they haven't announced anything like that yet, but I have an odd feeling that's going to be the last season because, again, there's a lot that's been wrapped up. There's still one more thing, again, that happens at the end of season 5 that obviously has to be handled, but I'm just thinking to myself, where else can they really go after this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, if they ended at season 6, then that would be perfect because, again, we've talked about, a lot of times on the show as far as like, certain series, TV series running for too long. You know what I mean? And again, I think the average, really solid show has like about 6 great seasons. The average great show has about 6 great seasons. When you look at Friends, seasons 1 to 6, and then I'd say, maybe season 10 are really the only ones that really matter. So I guess that's 7. Everybody Loves Raymond. First 3 are fine, but the last 6 are even better. So I think that, again, Cobra Kai ending at season 6 would probably be perfect. And we talked about with Stranger Things too. Again, season 5 for Stranger Things. That's when it's supposed to end. Good. Perfect. Because you can't have this going on for too long because I think that helps tarnish, not completely tarnish, but it helps bring down the quality of the legacy of whatever show when it runs for too long. It's just like, all right, like, come on, let's wrap this up. You're doing this for too long. Find something else to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a good story, also has a great ending, but not only just a great ending or, just wrapping up, the character arcs and the stories that you were telling, but also leaves a great impact on a lot of people that is memorable for years to come. That's why we can talk about Friends, Breaking Bad years, down the road because it it left something. It was a certain legacy, and I think Cobra Kai is doing just that with the Karate. It went from Karate Kid, to now just an even bigger fandom with Cobra Kai, the inclusion, and just how massive that has grown. And I think, like you said, ending on season 6, hopefully would be, hopefully like that is the series finale essentially. And if they end it with a bang, they end it with a bang. Don't do another season. Just end it, wrap things up to the point where us as viewers can be like, you know what? It had a good run. Because to be honest, I did not expect Cobra Kai to go on this long. It used to be a YouTube special. And Netflix picked it up and got Netflix. I think it paid off.
Yeah, I think so too. So for all of you that are with us at the moment, what did you think of season 5 of Cobra Kai? Do you think that the show's gone on for too long? Do you think that this season manages to build upon everything else like we've basically been saying? Leave your thoughts in whatever comment section that you can. And again, I just have to ask too, did you enjoy our review of Cobra Kai? And if you want more reviews of your favorite newest shows like this one, like and subscribe wherever you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, before we talk about the newest horror film from A24, an interesting bit of news that, quite frankly, I did not expect. A television series based on the Blade Runner franchise was announced. It's called Blade Runner 2099. Now, I can't say I know too much about the series so far. Darius, I know you were more excited to talk about this one. The only thing I know is that, Ridley Scott is the executive producer, Ridley Scott, the director of the original film, and it's an Amazon series too, which is interesting. So what are your thoughts on this development?
This is interesting because when we last left off with the Blade Runner series was really 2049, and I think you said that you really enjoy that movie. I've enjoyed that movie, and to be honest, it Blade Runner, especially that movie, felt much bigger, especially with how they shot it. The cinematography is easily one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best things about
That's
it. That's
one of the most gorgeous. That movie is among the most gorgeous films I've ever watched. Blade Runner 2049. It's gorgeous.
It is just cinematography, masterpiece, gorgeous. I love it. But also, there are certain moments, and even throughout the film, you feel as if there's a much larger picture, a much larger story to this world. So, and I think Ridley Scott coming back as it, really cool idea. Now, it being a series was unexpected because I expected maybe another Blade Runner movie, after 2049, like a sequel to that. But now that they're making it a series and on Amazon, and considering how Amazon's been putting a lot of money into other shows such as The Boys and even Lord of the Rings, no matter however people want to say about Lord of the Rings, whatever, but the production value of some of these shows are pretty high up there. So it's going to be interesting for a Blade Runner from a cinema scope, that cinematic perspective from the big screen, like an IMAX or whatever. How are they going to translate this world into an episodic format? And I think that's what intrigues me the most.
I just hope that they don't dwarf the overall scale and size of Blade Runner. Again, I never looking back at the original Blade Runner, I always felt like the scale of that movie was kind of big, but then again, that movie gets completely dwarfed, in my opinion, by Blade Runner 2049. So I don't know how you can bring something like that to essentially the small screen, like I said, in an episodic form. The only thing I will say that a television series actually has more of an advantage of as opposed to a film. You really have more time to develop not just the characters, but B, the lore itself. There's an opportunity to really expand on the lore of Blade Runner, but at the same time, if they attempt that, is that gonna feel like you're stretching everything too thin? Are they gonna have enough ground to back themselves up to expand this for an episodic series?
Yeah, I feel that when it comes to sci-fi and even, things along the nature of, including Blade Runner, something that is so enriching with sort of certain amount of detail, especially visually. When you look at, especially 2049, you can tell a lot by just probably even one frame, or a couple, a couple scenes within the movie of the nature of the world and everything. So I'm curious, as you said, like, how are they going to translate it to screen? But also, like, I'm wondering how much work they've put into expanding the lore beforehand, before they start production, because I feel that that's necessary to expand it, go into detail, this and that and the other, and then you go into production. So I'm curious to see which angle as well, what creative direction they're going to take in. Are we going to be seeing similar characters, returning characters? What, like, it's an odd place to be in, I think, for Blade Runner, because it was unexpected for an announcement like this.
Yeah. So yeah, as per usual, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And for all of you, what are your thoughts on this development? Again, are you even a Blade Runner fan? Because I know there are a lot of people that look at the original film and they either love it or they're just not so crazy about it. Do you think that this franchise should get a television series? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can, in whatever comment section that you can. And if you want more commentary about motion picture news like this one, you know what to do. Give us a like and give us a subscription on whatever platform you can, whether on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, to cap off the show, we're going to be talking about the newest film from the one and only A24, and it's called Pearl. And now, I know, like, a lot of people know this film as, like, a prequel film to the film X. Darius, I don't think you got to see the film X, and I don't think I did either. But basically, the storyline for just Pearl alone, this film alone, basically, a young psychotic farm woman goes to drastic lengths to leave her family farm and become famous. Now, the biggest thing about that stood out to this movie was how it managed to blend old and new. You know what I mean? There's this sort of old nostalgic feel and aesthetic that this film has. It's presented in Technicolor and it shows, and the musical score feels like that you would hear from, like, an older, like, golden age of Hollywood film, like from the 40s and the 50s. But at the same time, there's a lot of modern day horror in this film. Again, the blood and gore is very much there. There's a psychotic, murderous central character, which you didn't really see much of until really Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. I mean, I'm sure you had a couple of examples here and there, but this wasn't really common during that time that this movie seems to allude to with its style. And there's just something that's just very disturbing, unnerving, and really chilling about this film, again, in a way that you wouldn't feel as much with older films from the 40s, 50s, and some 60s films.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this was a movie that was unexpected for me, and just coming out of it, I told you just immediately, like, this felt disturbing. This felt, unnerving, and, just, like, the tension was there. You got to feel it. You got to get a sense of the main character and what she was going through, and as well as a bit of her psyche as well, and just she may not be all there and up there in the head, but very much so.
Yeah.
But overall, I really did like this movie. I did feel as if certain points felt a bit dragged out, just a bit too much, especially in, like, some of the beginning, middle. Like, it did lose me a bit. I think it lost a bit of momentum, at least just for me. But then there was a certain moment that was just one shot that drew me heavily back in, and then just took off from there. And that was a great scene in itself. So I think it definitely had its really solid moments as far as the main character, what she's going through, and even the surrounding aspects. And as much as... And it felt isolated as well. And I did like that. And I think it added to that disturbingness and that unnervingness of the movie and what they're in the story they were trying to tell. And I thoroughly enjoyed the fact of that isolated feeling, and that it is just... It is literally just central family and not straying too much away from other aspects of, let's say, the world, the town, whatever, but it is still their story in this person's story. And I very much did appreciate that, because I know some films, they can deviate a bit too much into, like, a subplot or another area and try to expand upon that. But no, this went from, we're going to deviate a bit, but go right back into it, and I really did like it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's funny that you mentioned, like, like, isolation and everything like that, because, like, we lived through the, COVID-19 pandemic, very early on, like, everyone's like really isolated. And again, it just goes to show exactly what isolation can do to you. Because again, like during the course of this film takes place in 1918. They're alluding to like, a virus of some kind. If I had to guess, maybe it was probably like the Spanish flu. But, again, it just goes to show like what happens when you don't have like as many well-developed human sympathies and empathies and relationships as you should. Because again, look at what happened with this character and everything that she was dealing with and the impact that it had on her relationships. But even just more than anything too, this character study wouldn't be nearly as effective if it wasn't for Mia Goth.
Yep.
Who was the actress that played her.
Oof.
Oh my God. She was absolutely phenomenal. She is not to say that this movie doesn't have anything else going for it. This movie, in my opinion, has a lot going for it, but she anchors the film. She is terrifying. She's terrifying, but at the same time, I was always fascinated by her. I couldn't help but just look straight at her. I never wanted to look away. But I just always wanted to see like what she was going to do next.
Yep, absolutely. She was definitely easily one of the best parts. And again, it's her character, but like, and again, there's a certain moment, there's a certain scene that is long, but it is so impactful and meaty in what she is saying and everything that I was just fully engaged to the point where I was just like, I don't even know how this movie is going to end. And even when it did end, I was like, Jesus, I
Yep.
This movie left me speechless, to be honest. It really did. It definitely had a lot of great moments. You really got to understand the psyche of her character and just, and as you said, how isolation can affect people to almost to the extreme sometimes. But I don't think it's just that isolationism, but I think it's also a certain insecurity she has within herself and other things within herself that kind of eventually developed into a certain persona that was so terrifying that it even was established or at least mentioned early on, and then it comes back full circle in the end, and I find that fascinating. But yeah, overall, this movie, I'd highly recommend people to go see this in the theater as well, watch it, really like be immersed in this, because this felt like an immersive experience as well. It may not be your Star Wars or your Batman, whatever, but it still felt immersive in a sense of just following this character's journey and following the psychological development of her mind and how it starts to break apart. So
yeah. One thing I will say, don't take your girlfriend to see this movie. Do not take your girlfriend, your wife, your whatever to see this movie. So I know, Darius, you and I were joking, like, oh, thank God we're single, and we're only mostly kidding when
we're just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, mostly.
Jesus.
in regards to this film, but no, seriously, again, this movie, it's definitely. As much as, like, I feel like 2022 overall so far has been, like, a lackluster year for movies, because I feel like there haven't been, like, as many films that are, like, that just stand out that you just really want to remember and you can't forget even if you tried. This movie gives me hope, at least for the rest of the year. And I feel like with this film, the horror movie, like, Halloween season has officially kicked off. You know what I mean? Because there's just, like, so many scary and even just, like, chilling moments throughout this film that never feel gimmicky, that always feel well done.
Yeah.
So props to everyone. Props to filmmaker Ty West for putting this together, because this just really was a great time. It was a great time, and it's something that I'm going to be thinking about for a while after, and I hope that this gets more attention. I'm not sure that it will, but I would like to see this film get, like, attention, a lot of attention.
Yep, same here. It was a really good experience. Saw this movie, really enjoyed it.
All in all, what did you all think of the movie Pearl? Did you actually see the movie? Did you see the movie X? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can on either of those films. And if you want more reviews like this one, again, as always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And just like that, that's all we have for you today. Join us next week for our review of Don't Worry, Darling. We'll see you then. Take care.